everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. Instead of starting off the episode, as I usually do, with a cynical comment about America's descent into fascism, or prior to that, I mean, it's been an ongoing thing for a long time, but I meant prior to the sudden fall off the old cliff of fascism, I would say probably, sending people to a concentration camp in another country. That's probably precipitously worse than the evil that the last bunch of presidents have been doing. And sure, we are one Supreme Court decision away from kind of tipping over into Christian fascism. So things aren't great. Things are, I wouldn't characterize them as being as being wonderful here. I wake up and I read the news and I'm nauseous with rage pretty quickly. But I'm not gonna waste everyone's time and make a cynical comment about it here. No. I'm going to talk about an email I received that tells me this. I'm guessing this is, I don't know. I'm guessing some AI thing was scraping the transcripts on Apple Podcasts, because I got this email from, it seems automated. And it says this, pretty exciting. Apparently Beginnings is the number 4 result on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for listeners who search for the phrase cosmic experiences. We're also number 8, we're also number 8 if you search for cave metaphor. Now, I'm going to ask you, is there a reason why Beginnings shows up for those things? Have I talked about Plato? Maybe. Have I talked about the cave metaphor from, is it the Republic? Maybe. I think I brought up the Republic once or twice on the show in the 15 years I've been doing this. But cosmic experiences? For me, a teetotaler? Well, I guess there was a period where I was like, should I take acid? Should I expand my mind? Should I take shrooms? And then instead, I decided to just eat some baked lays and rewatch Battlestar Galactica. So maybe I've used the phrase, you know what? I've never used the phrase cosmic experiences. But I'll tell you what, today's episode is for sure a cosmic experience, because I'm talking to the wonderful Kristin Hersh. And if you don't know who Kristin is, I'm going to read you her bio right now. Originally from Atlanta, musician Kristin Hersh's family moved to Newport, Rhode Island when she was 6. Here she met Tanya Donnelly, and they formed Throwing Muses when they were teenagers. After moving to Boston years later, they quickly became part of the burgeoning scene that produced everyone from the Pixies to the Lemonheads, and the band similarly found success. I will never be able to say that word, similarly. Since 1986, they've released 11 albums on labels like 4AD and Rykodisc and Fire Records. In addition, Kristin has also recorded a dozen albums under her own name, and as 50 Foot Wave, she has recorded 2 wonderful albums as well. And as always with guests who have had prolific careers, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is great. What am I supposed to say about Kristin? This is great. She's wonderful. I don't have to sit here and tell you that. You know that already. I can't believe she didn't cancel this, by the way, because she recorded this right after coming back from tour with the flu. I would have 100% canceled. If I get a cold, I'm just like, we'll do this podcast later. But I'm 100% glad that she didn't, because it was so good talking to her. And you know what? I'm not going to... You'll hear it. You don't need the preview. This is almost like, you know how on trailers now, they show 10 seconds from the trailer before the trailer? So I'll just finish with a lot of great episodes coming up. Just talked to Meryl and Nate from Tune Yards, David Bazan from Pedro the Lion. Those were fantastic. David Longstreth, Dirty Projectors, is coming up. Cartoonists like Mr. Fish, one of the best political cartoonists out there. And of course, coming up, Kelly Sue DeConnick, iconic comics writer. Her new book, FML, is one of the best things that came out this year. So stay tuned for those. But for now, let's talk to Kristin. interestingly, when I talk to people who are slightly older than me, I think you grew up in a more stable time. Not that I didn't grow up in a stable time, but that you were already well into your careers by the time that I figured shit out. And so I think I'm always fascinated by that. And especially I talked to Tanya maybe over a year ago. And so I kind of know what your childhood was like, but
it was chaos.
Yeah. Well, hold on. I wrote this. I went back this morning and kind of scrubbed through it. And this was the term that she used: feral childhood.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We were feral animals. It's true. Sorry. I shouldn't have shown up with the flu. I just came home from Australia, and there's no way to not fall down after one of those tours. Everybody who was on that tour just bonk.
Oh no. Were you able to, like, when I know I have to do something professional, but I'm like at the edge of what my body will take, my body will hold on, and then right at the end of it, it's not just that like I plop over, it's that my body was purposely like, it had some knowledge that, hey, you have to do this. And
that's a phenomenon. This happens on every tour bus and every van. Everybody knows you go because you're soldiers. And even giving the trapped nature of it, it isn't the army, but it's something like going to war if war were a good thing. And your body is collapsing and is not allowed to. So when it stops, everything collapses, everything breaks down.
Well, okay, here, this is interesting. This is something that my wife and I have both been coming to as everything falls apart, which is, we work in entertainment as writers, and she's an actor and a stand-up too. And the kind of work ethic that has been pushed on us before, which is like, you got to work if you want to make this TV show or you want to make this film or whatever, right? You work 25 hours a day and you put your all into it to do this thing. And we're coming to this point where we're just like, why are we working like that? Why are we not like...
Yeah, particularly in the entertainment industry.
Well, but we still have we still actually have jobs. So we're the lucky ones.
Of course. But I have learned that I was right when I started the band when I was like 12. I just didn't belong in that world. I was about focus. And that's the opposite of being self-conscious. So what they were looking for in the recording industry, as opposed to a music business that you create yourself, was not work. No work. They didn't want work. They wanted images and they wanted trends. They wanted forgettable. And I think that's because, like, when Tanya and I were growing up, it was the 80s, right? And that was when the industry stopped sending out A&R people to, like, see. I mean, we call those dudes narcs. They're always going like, where's the party, man? And they were trying to figure out what the kids were into, right? But that job was erased because they were tired of chasing down what the kids wanted and selling it back to them. They thought a better model was like, no, fuck that. We're going to tell you what you're into. And they decided it was shopping. You guys like to go to malls and shop. And so, of course, I mean, people are social. They made it look like that's what was happening. But for the first time, there was this popular culture that wasn't in any way grassroots. It was all top down. And I liked that sweet spot, actually, because it was so bad and still is. Like, top 40 popular culture is an economy. It's not a culture in any way. And I'm not saying snooty art. That's the same problem as when you put people in a category and you say snob appeal or lowest common denominator when you're actually looking for work. So your point is a good one. If you're going to do the work, it's not the tap dance. It never will be.
But here's the thing. I wonder how much of that, even if you are, and this is my question for you, even if you are saying, hey, I don't want to be part of that, how much of the kind of capitalist work ethic do you still internalize and say like, well, I have to, you know what, even if I'm sick, I still have to, I have to go on this tour. I have to do X, Y, and Z. I'm stuck in and I'm not saying this is you, but I'm saying like, I'm in the album cycle and I have to every 2 years, even if I'm not maybe feeling it, I'm going to put out an album.
Right.
How much of that gets in you just being in the industry at a high level, you are?
I got to do like 10 times what anybody who's actually in the industry has to do to make up for the fact that I'm DIY. And yet it's not a tap dance. It's showing up instead of showing off, because I have the work, and then I can't really make the math work just by playing guitar all day. That doesn't pay very well.
Right.
And it's not even as like people say, oh, she's just about the music. She doesn't care who's paying attention. It's way worse than that. I actually am a little weirded out if anyone wants to hear my music.
Oh, really?
I think, but it's personal. It's mine. You should play your own music and like that. But I can't do the math in any other way. So I show up, and I actually have been humbled in that regard, because I realize a good song isn't just personal. Obviously, it's not going to be stuck in your body or stuck in your psychology. It's supposed to be given away. It's supposed to happen between you and the listener. And that would be what a venue is, right? So we show up at these venues. It's a listening venue, and it facilitates the listening process. The idea of a spotlight shining on a person and everybody say, care about this person. It's bigger than you, and it's richer than you, and it's what we call famous. I suppose that's triggering something vestigial in our psychologies, but it's really the result of an economic reality that is our entertainment industry. And you can see how it's taken over our goofy country. We live under the auspices. Look at politics. It really does filter through in ways that are, well, they're illustrative, let's say.
So, okay, let me ask you a hypothetical. If there was no economic motive, do you think you would just make music for yourself? Or is there some part of you that's like, this is something that does connect me to others, and so there is something meaningful in the performative aspect as opposed to just the compositional aspect of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a good thing I wasn't independently wealthy, because I'm so shy and I'm so focused on the music itself that I wouldn't have learned that lesson that I continue to live, which is you show up with your body and you be, well, this word has been co-opted, but authentic. You be real. And if you're real, that's a disappearing function. It's not a showing off function. You disappear and the music happens. And if the audience, like we had Warner Brothers buy us these, like, I don't want to insult anybody, but I'm going to say dicks and chicks were the audience that respond to marketing, right? So they all come to this big fucking venue and they want to hear the single. They just kind of say woo a lot at you. and they're all at a party, and I'm not at the party. I'm actually playing music. It was clear that I didn't belong there, and that was called success. But in my orientation, like say we were doing TV, I wasn't thinking this TV show that this number of people watch in American culture. I was thinking there's mold on the stairs. The lady with the headset seems tense. There's a light shining off the camera lens. And then I would think music, which means not thinking, right? So my big picture, small world orientation needed to be called out. It's not about me either. And I really shouldn't be allowed to think that these songs are mine, because if they're good, they're not. The sucky ones are definitely mine. They were my mistakes.
Yeah. I think you are, though, characterizing my whole ambivalence about making things for a living. And it took me so long to get to the point where I could, where I could admit to myself I want to do that. And it's the most enjoyable and meaningful thing I've done in my life. But at the same time, or maybe not at the same time, maybe dialectically, maybe I bounce back and forth between this. It does, there's this kind of like icky feeling like you playing at some industry party where, and I've been to one or two of those at a CMJ back in the day where I'm just like, hey, this band we all love is playing. Why are we not watching them? Why are you all talking?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's happening?
They're human beings, right? But they're lost in a machine. And that's always going to be the problem. When we make mistakes, we do it in a mob. And, I was mad at Warner Brothers while I was on Warner Brothers.
Sure.
Well, for a long time. I was the one that signed those contracts. And I didn't make a penny from any of my records. I was charged for them. I was held in debt for, I think, ultimately $750,000 just for making Throwing Muses records because they didn't promote them. And there's this unspoken assumption that the public votes for fame. It does not. It's bought. It's all bought, as you know. And so you're working with the middlemen. You're saying, like, put the promotional money behind this so there's attention paid to something that doesn't suck. And they would say, well, that's not what we want. We don't want music. We want product, because music is for people who love it. And you can't tell lovers what to love. You can't tell them what to buy, and love's not for sale. These are human beings. They had thought this through. And I was like, right on. This is brilliant and evil. Can I go now? And they said, no, you're here so that we can sign people who are willing to do what you aren't. They are willing to be ambitious, to be shallow, to create radio-friendly product, to create sexist images and blah, blah, blah. And I think that started in the 80s with the, like, you guys like to go to malls and you go shopping. They decided lowest common denominator, and this weird, like, fake art thing, this pretentious thing. Those two lies are what we're going to sell people. And so obviously, if that's all they're selling, if that's all anyone knows about, that's what they're buying. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so these people, the people at CMJ, they're going, all these dummies, music isn't good anymore. Look what they like. And it's like, well, blame the middleman. Music has always been. The music business is a very short-lived entity, and it went immediately dive bombed.
I really think my eyes opened when I was in college. I read Steve Albini wrote this essay in Baffler that kind of broke down how music contracts work and how people end up owing, like you just said, money. And I was like, wait, I didn't realize, I guess I didn't even have a thought about how it worked. I just assumed that, like, a band organically, I was so naive. Right. I didn't even think about the fact that it was not all, but like a lot of at least mainstream culture was manufactured. And I just assumed, something organically catches a wave.
Right. That's what they want you to think. And if your first record, if you sell out immediately and you say, look at this crap and look at me, hey boys, then yes, you can make lots and lots of money. And then there will be anomalies, which I find more interesting, like Nirvana. The Monkees were an anomaly. They were created and they said, fuck that, we're going to be a band and we're not going to suck. Yeah. And then the Violent Femmes are another fissure where they ultimately had a platinum record, but not because they were, not because it was bought for them. Their first record was passed around for decades until everybody loved it. And it didn't suck. That's the most striking thing.
Yeah.
People aren't dumb. Like, there is no lowest common denominator. It's like, if you only give them candy and they're hungry and they eat it and you go like, you dummy eating candy. It's like, they're human too, like, try giving them an apple. But at this point, we're dealing with a musically illiterate populace. So when they hear an apple, they're like, where's the McDonald's?
That's interesting when you said Nirvana, because that's the thing. When Nirvana became popular when I was a kid, and I was like, wait, how does this band that I love, when none of the other stuff I love anyone at school likes, but now suddenly I'm on the same page. It was very weird. And I think that's something that I've been chasing my entire life, is trying to figure out, just what was the moment? Because they'll have these moments every once in a while. Like, and I don't know whether it was just like,
Yeah, you know what? That's it. I think we work for the moments. And Kurt still had to have the hooks that you repeat and the choruses you repeat. He did everything by the book. But as a human and a songwriter, he didn't suck. And that sweet spot, I think, is always going to be found in the moments. Because if you are truly visceral in every measure of your output, you're going to weird everybody out. That's not acceptable in this industry that has been dumbing down for so long. So we're here for the moments that they have allowed in, that they have still put promotional money behind, that aren't turning their back on humanity or music.
I mean, let's go back a little because I am curious. Did you walk into the industry naively, or did you have a certain sense of like, well, I know there is a monetary, a financial edge to this that I have to deal with, or was it just like, oh, shucks, I don't really mean it like that, I'm going to make some music. But like, do you know what I mean?
Well, for me personally, it's probably not representative, but my life plan was to look down at my guitar until I died, which was going to be soon. So I wasn't thinking we should even book shows, but Leslie and Dave were happy, and there were grown-ups, and they said we're a band that's like playing. So I was like, all right. So I booked us every night in Providence, every night in Boston, and we just became this band that played nonstop. It was like our Hamburg days, and we got a lot of shit. Like, you know, those dudes, Boston dudes, and their garage rock, they did not like letting go of that little patriarchy.
Interesting.
And yeah, they were horribly rude, and we were tiny little girls, you know, like, what's the point? But I had no ambition then. I have no ambition now. And I was getting all these offers, recording contracts, and you just look at them and they're just laughable. You know, you give us 10 records, but we can drop you anytime. And it's like, no, we're just doing what we're doing. Just, you know, go play with the people who play dress up. So I knew that much. But then I Vote 4AD came along, and I had never heard of 4AD. I actually thought it was a fake English accent. He was calling me. We all lived in an apartment together in Muses in Boston, and I was pregnant but didn't know it. I thought I had the flu. Like, hey. And so I'm just kind of,
hey, maybe you're pregnant again.
Yay, baby number 5. I'm always pregnant. Somebody was going through our videos the other day, and they were like, "You're pregnant in every single one." Like, I know, right? But he would call, and I thought he was waiting for one of the cute girls to answer the phone, but I was just like stuck there. And so he would call, and we would talk about. Well, he said he had a record company, and I didn't believe him. And clearly his British accent was fake. And so we talked about anything else, mostly like skin ailments. Like, the British have so many vocabulary words for things that can go wrong on your skin. We have like
eczema, like that. You mean like,
right? We got that. We have like wart or boil, maybe, like, but nobody's ever seen a boil. They probably went out with housemaid's knee, right?
Right.
Not the British. They have all kinds of shit that goes wrong on skin, and they have names for it. And it's like verrucas, and anyway. So he'd call every day, and I would answer the phone for like a week, and he just kept saying, I love your tape. We made tapes back then.
Oh, I remember. I've made tapes. I
didn't send him a tape. I don't know where he got it. And I was like, that's great, you know. And he said, I don't sign American bands. And I was like, oh, that's a good out for someone who's faking a British accent and doesn't really have a record label. And then after a couple of weeks of this, he said, okay, I'll sign you. Hold on. Wait a minute. What?
Why is he just calling as a fan then? If he's not,
that's what I thought. It's like,
because if I don't sign American bands. Like, if he's like that, then like, why have the phone call in the first place?
He was giving himself shit. He's just saying like, you know, whatever I can do for you. It's funny when you start and you're real, or if you have just some real, people come out from all over the place, like clear-eyed, hands extended, like, what can I do? And we all facilitate this reel together. And obviously everybody's fucked up and they have issues and they're not real all the time. And my songs were, I didn't know how to edit and I was screaming but I wasn't lying. And so all these people just kept saying, take my van, stay at my place, open for my band. And I realized he was one of those, and he was cool. He was like a 6-year-old with a bowler hat, kind of. Like he talked like the queen, but he was a little kid. And I thought, well, we'd make a good team. And he said, let's just do one record. And if we're not happy, then we'll part ways. So it's just perfect. Just so everything above board and honest. And the only weird thing is that because he's English, he preferred the crazy, arty, I don't have melodramatic songs, but I have some dramatic songs. Mm-hmm. And he took out all of our fun songs, all of our American songs, all of our acoustic songs. So our first record is like curated to just look like total insanity that I'm now blamed for, obviously. And now with this new record, it sounds like we used to. All the songs that
there's a
got
balance.
Taken off of that sound like Moonlight Concessions for some reason.
Okay, because I want to keep going back further because your dad's a philosophy professor, correct? Mm-hmm. Right? You're born in Atlanta. If Wikipedia is correct, you're born in Atlanta. Your dad's a philosophy professor. Your mom's a teacher, and you grew up on a commune in Atlanta. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, most of Wikipedia is not true or only technically true, but kind of weird. Like you can tell if you sit down in a radio station and the host starts saying, so you write songs about ice, cowboys, shoes, and the color blue.
Well, okay. Like, okay, hold on. I know more. I know what songs are about. But I meant I've read some other, I've done some research. I've read some articles about you. Okay. And I talked to your stepsister. So there's more here there's more here. Looks like you had, you used to, groom dogs. Tell me about your new record. It's like, groom dogs. Where'd you read that? I don't know. It was on the internet somewhere. No, but two questions. And let's just start with this one. Because you've written a book about your life. And I just I've talked to a bunch of people that have written memoirs before. I just talked to Bob Mould a couple weeks ago. And I'm really curious about the process of taking your life and turning it into a narrative. Was it a struggle for you, or did it kind of flow easily where you're like, yeah, I know myself and I know how to turn it into a story?
It was a story. It wasn't my idea. I'm not Bob. Bob is a big grown-up man, and he does he does big grown-up things, and I listen to him when he tells me what to do. But this came about because a bunch of journalists suggested that they should ghostwrite my memoirs. And I think there must have been a story that came out that made my life sound interesting, and I didn't see it. And I'm so nice that I just said, sure, do whatever you want, and then realized they were going to move into my house and talk about feelings. And this just sounded like a nightmare. So I stopped returning their calls, and then management noticed and said, since you're unwilling to talk to anyone but yourself, you write the book because there won't be a book. And there's a Penguin deal for it. And so for 2 years, I had a clever version of my teenage diary. Mm-hmm. That was the only book I had ever written, and I didn't really remember having written it. And I hate clever. I think clever is just the one thing we really don't need. It's worse than stupid. So the next 2 years, it found its voice, and then I followed it around, and it was very similar to music that way. So that I was completely compelled to work. I was working all night, every night. Not sleeping at all. And I was remembering, if it's between night and day, you can remember the way your old car smelled and the way dead people's voices sounded. And it got beautiful, and it's a very kind love letter to everyone who is there. But really, the only reason I published it is to help some kid with a passion. We do not make it easy to carry passion, and they just die too often, too readily.
Yeah.
And that was what Rat Girl is. My other books are also memoirs, just because I don't know how to lie. I've been told by people in the industry that you don't get an impression of the narrator, that I tell stories, that I'm not talking about my feelings and what I did and what I thought about things. They're just like, there's a non-entity telling these stories. I'm like, that's great. That's just like music.
I mean, is that purposeful, or is that just happen to be a function of the way that you write?
Yeah, I think it's just a person I am. I get immediately bored when I think about my own feelings.
Really?
And I imagine anybody else would too.
Wait, okay, hold on. Then why? Because I find this to be an interesting contradiction then. You're bored by yourself, yet you are the engine for this art which other people connect with. Mm-hmm. So by dint of that, can you not catch some whiff of the vibe that other people are getting from you and ride that wave? Does that I realize that was like 10 metaphors kind of mushed together. But like, do you know what I mean? Like sometimes, okay, here's an example of something. Like, I'll make something, I'll write a script or whatever like that, right? And then I'll hand it to my agent or someone to read. And then when I see how they're reacting to it, I catch some of that excitement myself.
Oh, that's cool. I get that. Yeah.
Does that doesn't happen to you?
Well, your scripts might be likable.
But you can tell like someone like, but that you are emotionally affecting someone, or that you are totally. Like, or like they're like, do you ever catch that off of someone else? The kind of like, the shine off of the mirror. Right.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. I think the conduit process, what would the conduit be for? You're not channeling God. The song is an energetic, and if you're a musician, you turn it into sound, right? A sound body. If you're an inspired conversationalist, you turn it into an inspired moment with another person. But for me, it's a musical body when it comes out, but it doesn't just come out. I'm not just playing the clouds. It goes through my personhood, my selfhood, my physicality, and it's full of stories. Right. But it does not tell those stories the way I do in my real life. It makes points that I don't know yet, and it becomes this hodgepodge of almost glowing technique, jumping around, time tripping, overheard phrases, glowing, I don't want to say symbols because that sounds reductive as if it were removed, but like living, breathing, material plane stuff. And it's not the way I live on the material plane. So conduit is a combination of those two things. And if there's any reason to play it out loud, I need that, because I don't want to. I don't want to be on a stage. I don't want anybody to look at me. I'm a mammal. It's freaky to have people look at you.
But otherwise, so you might have ended up, and this is where I'm trying to figure out, or this is what I'm trying to figure out, is you might have ended up as Emily Dickinson, who maybe wrote some stuff for yourself, put it in, recorded it, put it on a disc or a cassette somewhere, and just, put it under your bed.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that. And I think that's pretty much what music has been, and is still, and always will be. It's unusual for anyone like me to have been heard. But the shine you mentioned is what I say happens between you and the listener when the listener adopts the song as their part of their soundtrack, as opposed to a fan that wants to like look at you and who you are and care about shit like that. The song's for the listener and it's for me, but I'm the one person that can't truly hear it.
Oh, wow. There seems to be, and this might be just a armchair psychology stretch, so tell me if I am maybe even in the ballpark at all, but like, because you grew up on a commune a little bit, and then once you moved to Rhode Island, Newport, right? If I'm remembering what Tanya said exactly, it was kind of like a wild, I mean, we said feral before, but just like, you're all running about doing whatever you want, kind of. Your parents and all the adults are supporting your vision and kind of just saying like, yes, do this thing.
I don't remember any parents. We We literally, like, we were feral, like, for real. Like, they were not parents. After age 10, we were just sent out into the world.
I remember her saying something about, like, if there's something you wanted to do, they would allow it. Maybe that's what I'm
yeah, it was definitely allowed. They didn't care where we were.
And is there a certain sense where you feel like art is a communal thing then? Again, this is like kind of a stretch. I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, it shouldn't be stuck in you. I want to say, like, when we first, what I dissolved Throwing Muses when Warner Brothers just turned into monsters. And I said, I'm not going to give you crap songs anymore.
Right.
I just disagree with all this. And so I broke up the band thinking they would let us go, and it didn't work that way. So we were just put in this, well, we're going to destroy you dungeon. We're going to make sure your records are not mailed out to the stores who ask for them. We're going to take your songs off the radio. They did. The DJs are just like, do you know what your label is doing? Like, yeah, because the promotional money goes to 2 bands a month, and we weren't one of them. So DJs were trying to play Bright Yellow Gun, and they were being threatened by our own record company, saying, if you don't take that off the air and play this record that we are working, then we'll remove the payola. And the whole thing is just like the shelf space in the record stores was bought, the covers of the magazines, everything was bought, the position on the charts, the radio play, everything was just bought. They're just hoping for a return on their investment. So obviously I didn't belong there.
Yeah, I mean,
at all.
I knew about payola. I didn't realize that there was also like kind of a mafia part of it where it's like, hey, we've given you this payola, so stop playing other songs. Right?
Yeah, they wouldn't let me go because then I could like go to another label or be DIY, and they wanted to make sure I was buried for shifting the paradigm, for not being part of the old guard, and it was very sexist. You know, you were supposed to be like, hey boys, this is like, right. Dude, if I tried to do that, I would be bad at it, and I'm not going to try. Right. There were women, you know, women are just like, we know it sells, just like bimbos, and it doesn't matter. But so I had a new baby. My drummer and I were been best friends since we were like 9. And he would come over, play with the baby, and he saw my 4-track sitting there. And so while he's playing with the baby, he's listening to all the songs that obviously they don't care if they're not going on records. They're just songs. So they just keep coming. And he's listening, and he's got the headphones on, and he shouts because he's got headphones on. He says, let's just be a band that doesn't give a fuck because we don't give a fuck. And so we stayed a band instead of breaking up. Right. And it's because I think he was right. The 4-track was filling up with songs that were supposed to go to people. They were like, it was like trying to make my beautiful, pristine children stay in a closet so that the world doesn't beat them up. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a tough decision, but I think you're right.
Yeah. So the kind of what I'm trying to get at, I guess, is, you know, where does the desire to do this to do this professionally come from? And it seems like it's a mix of like, well, I have to make a living, so there has to be I have to do some of this in public, and this is for other people. It may not be like I may not be able to kind of connect with it in some way, but this is for a group to understand or feel or.
And I can be very polarizing, and I'm a nice lady, so that hurts my feelings. Like, I just played like a bunch of folk festivals in Australia, and I play acoustic guitar. You know, how non-folky could it be? But they know, and they just think I'm some rock or goth chick, I guess. And they're not as liberal as they think they are. They're very conservative. They're rigid in their genre, right? And I'm like, I'm not touching your genre. I'm just here at the party, and I'm bringing what I bring. And I'm not. I'm a nice person, but they can be really dark, and they'll just like leave. And yet the people that are there on purpose, the people, you know, this is what I get at my shows. I never have to do this normally, but they're right there. They're taking the medicine. They're here on purpose. And I'm really spoiled that way. You can hear a pin drop at my shows. They're amazing. And so, yes, that honor, I really needed to be shoved into it because I'm so shy, but it's been worth every flu I get when I come home, because when the medicine works, it was an honor for me to carry it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it too. Like the shine you're talking about, that feeds me, not because I'm showing off on stage, but but it's because that's when I know why I was born. And if only I knew why I was born, and they just kept filing out the back like they did at the folk festivals, then it would be sad and I'd have a different job.
When you were younger, did you have something else you wanted to do, or was it always music from the jump?
I studied herpetology and immunology.
Really? Wait, how old were you?
I was young. I went to college when I was young. We don't have to talk about what a nerd I am.
What do you? This is the thing. I was a philosophy professor. You're talking to a huge nerd.
Okay. Yeah, I was into herpetology and still obsessed with snakes, but moved into immunology, and I had to make a choice between a scholarship to study medicine and Ivo's record deal. And I was pregnant, like 8 months pregnant, and I always assumed that I made the wrong choice.
Huh.
And because it's a dirty business. It's a horrible world, the recording industry. And I wanted to do good and not be judged for my looks and shit like that. So I had my eye on Doctors Without Borders. Recently I had to leave on tour, and I get like so shy and I get all upset. Like, oh God, I got to buy lipstick now, and like, I got to buy new strings and and I realized I'm actually doing what I wanted to do. This is Doctors Without Borders. It's just like, I'm going all over the world with my medicine, and the people who need it show up to take it. Period. That's all I was ever looking for.
What was it about lizards, though? Or, I mean, specifically you said snakes, I suppose, but what was it about reptiles?
Lizards are okay, but like, I don't know. I was born obsessed with snakes, particularly one kind of snake, an indigo snake. But when I was a kid, I had just a million little science books about snakes, and I would go out looking for them, and I only found garters. And, I have a bunch of kids, but the baby, Bodhi, he was born with the same obsession, and I did not suggest it in any way. And not just snakes, but specifically indigo snakes. How weird is that? How is that a heritable trait? But he has one now. He has an indigo. And we've had upwards of 100 different wonderful snakes. And I pick up snakes everywhere I go. Every snake I see, I pick up, and I'm never bitten. In fact, they do this thing where they just go limp when I hold them. I swear, you ask any of my children or anyone who knows me, snakes just stop when they're on me as if I killed them. They just blah. I've been like, Bodhi used to work at like herpetological facilities and zoos and stuff, and I'd be standing there holding one of his snakes, and the snake just goes like this when I hold them. They just go limp. And I hear this couple come over and say, "Is it dead?" I was like, why would I be standing here holding a dead snake? And like, well, what's wrong with it? What'd you do to it? It's like, I don't know. The Bodhi will pick it up, and then it wakes up and acts like a normal snake. But my kids say it's because I'm so deeply boring.
Is it a pheromone thing?
Right? It could be heat. I run real warm.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting. It's interesting to find out that there's just some biological thing about you, about someone, about oneself that just does something in the world. And it's just irreducible. It's just, there's no thing. There's no like, I didn't choose this. It's just like, yeah, so I guess my thyroid does this, and now I'm a little bit warmer. And so now snakes like the warmth, and that's that. Or it's, and then I don't know if this is it, but like, you find this thing out about yourself when you're younger, and then it's kind of like, oh, okay. Well, now I'm moving in a direction with snakes.
Yeah. Yeah. I trusted them. They seem like the real entity to me. Humans, including myself, I think complexity is a way to make a lot of mistakes. It's not advanced necessarily.
What do you mean?
Well, alligators haven't changed in 80 million years, and not because they are stupid. It's because they don't need to. They're perfect. And snakes, every time I visit with one, I'm just sent right back to that that place, like limbic system orientation, I suppose, that is so honest and real. It's like, it's not hard to go there, but a lot of people don't hold snakes. They don't even like them. And they don't have that invitation to remember how solid their selfhood could be that way without falling prey to their own complexity.
When you're younger, do you find yourself drawn to, and I know we used this word before, and I think it's probably the best word, but authentic situations or authentic people, as opposed to, I mean, now in 2025, half the population is living in bad faith, and I find it to be a nauseating culture that we're in at the moment. But I think when I was younger, there were a lot more people who were at least kind of honest about themselves and about their lives. And you could it was a little easier to pick out the people who were con artists or liars or living in bad faith. Did you find yourself easily able to pick out these people, and were you moving in a direction of more authentic folks? Or I'm just curious, because it seems, this is why I asked this, it seems that as we're talking that like, that's the thing that's really drawing you towards art, is a chance for authenticity and to authentically connect with other people, or give people an opportunity for an authentic experience.
Right. An exchange. I think a lot like a dog, and I read energy, and when it clashes with what someone's trying to put across over their energy, I can see the manipulation, and yet I see their goodness. I always see their goodness. And I have a friend who says, this is the worst thing about you. You see the good in everyone. And I'm not wrong, so I can't stop seeing it. I know that they don't always align with it. And I've been screwed over a lot. And people think I'm an idiot. It's like, no, it's not like I didn't see their potential for darkness. It's everyone, right? But you always hope that they're going to show up real. Because everybody was a kid, right? Why shake that off? What are you thinking? It's like learning to lie. That's not embracing maturity. But yeah, so music is a good way to be a dog. Make a lot of noise.
Yeah, it is interesting you say that about, when I think about the worst humans in the world at the moment, they come off as children to me, right?
I see what you're saying. Well, immature anyway.
Yeah, but just like I think about how easy it is to give into anger, because I've had anger issues before. I've been to therapy for over a decade. I've done the work, and I know that the easiest thing in the world is to give into anger, is to allow it to consume you. And so I'm just like, so when I see people like Elon Musk or any of these other freaks who are just like, what I imagine in my mind is a bully coming along with just feces stained pants, smashing a sandcastle that a bunch of people have built. Yeah. And then the parents are just like, good work, kid.
Yeah.
That's what I imagine. But so
I agree. I think I see fashion in these people. I see the misapprehension of selfhood, which is frozen on a timeline, and a top-down misapprehension of power and selfhood. So selfhood to me would be spiritual responsibility, and that's it. Every kid's got that. And somehow they have turned themselves into products. And, patriarchy isn't men. That's a sexist thing to say. Patriarchy is anyone who thinks they can gain from upholding this lame-ass system and buying in. And as it begins to crumble, the most cartoonish players will grope for power in a very elaborate play of essentially a cultural zit. And they were there, and we need to look at it. Some people will say, the worst day of my life was the day I was diagnosed with cancer. And you had cancer the day before. That was the day you started fighting. I don't think people are any lamer or dumber than they used to be, but we're fighting it right now. And it's so elaborate that there's no choice. When they leave you with no choice, that's when even spiritual people fight.
But when you were a kid, did you think you had a spiritual connection? Do you think you had a spiritual bend in you? Or is this something you've developed as you become an adult? Or maybe not developed, but maybe discovered. Were you conscious of one when you were a kid?
I was raised Buddhist. So, and I didn't know what that meant. But all kids are Buddhist. And I certainly didn't have the vocabulary. All I had was music and snakes, but that's spirituality,
Right.
To be truly here. It's those that see the material plane as devoid of any spirit. Those are the zombies. And that's really what we're fighting. It's like, you got to be here. You got to be here with real and be here with purpose. And I hate to use the word magic, but I can't think of another one. If you don't see any magic here, you're already dead. And that's what we're looking at with Trump and Musk.
Yeah. What philosophy did your dad teach? Do you know?
A whole bunch of, he was the groovy professor, Buddhism, yoga, Native American dream symbolism. He wasn't the logic professor, particularly logical.
Good. That stuff was the stuff that turned me off of being a professor.
It can be a little dry, a little argumentative.
Not only that, I'm going to say yes, you're right. I think it's also not correct. I think it's outright just a bad way of trying to understand human beings.
Yeah. Well, I got to meet Joseph Campbell, James Hillman when I was a kid. And James Hillman absolutely changed my life. He was amazing.
How so?
Well, for one, because he talked to a little girl. Joseph Campbell was just weird. But James Hillman wanted to hear what I had to say. He would sit down and have soup with me and listen when I talked and respond as if we were both humans. And I get that now when I read his books. It's like, this is respectful.
Well, what did that do for you then? Because you said he changed your life. Like that, what did it allow you to do?
I think there's sort of a sensuous quality on calling that she was about that implies that we aren't here to be comfortable and we aren't here to shake off our souls. Vanity and soul, they're never going to be in the same room, the same person at the same time. And if you see yourself, that's why I say those people are fashioned, the vanity. If you truly denote humanity according to the superficial, that's behind every ism. And James Hillman said, your calling will tell you what your soul is. Like, why incarnate unless you have something to do here? And as a very shy kid who was sort of, still, it's like, I'm not comfortable with people. I'm not comfortable in the world. I needed an uncle like that to say, like, that's part of your calling.
Was there ever a point where you became more comfortable, or has it always been from the start a bit of, and I know the feeling, I'm trying to characterize it in one word. I can't. I just think of sometimes when I'm feeling not confident in myself that I just want to run and hide.
Yeah, that's how I live.
Yeah. So has it ever gotten better, or has it always been kind of the same intensity?
I'm used to it. And animals help. My bandmates helped. They did all the talking for me. They did all the socializing for me. They loved me. My kids helped, but people fall away and leave you standing alone. And now I have music on my side, so I know my strengths, and I don't actually consider my shyness a weakness. I consider it part of my focus. Yeah. I'm not distracted by what anybody thinks of me. I have no idea what that might be.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't even call it. I would never have characterized it as a weakness. It's more.
Well, I would have.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't seem to belong anywhere.
Yeah, but that's a lot of people.
Yep, that's what I think. Yeah, and a lot of people who do what I do.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I don't think it's a weakness necessarily. Maybe in a world where you're expected to have a public persona as part of the art,
Yeah.
maybe. And I think that's, for me personally, as someone who's kind of shy, I had to reckon with, well, what will I put up with to do this for a living?
That's a good question.
And it's like, because I was a philosophy professor and I hated so much of academia. It was not, as much as I love philosophy, the structures of academia and the things I was being forced to write and the way I thought, I was like, if I can even make it to tenure, I'm going to spend 15, 20 years writing bullshit that I don't believe in just to get tenure. And then maybe I can write about what I want to write about. It's not worth it.
My partner is a philosophy professor, Fred from Throwing Muses. And he felt the same way about academia. So he's coming on the road.
It's just,
I mean, he's teaching today, but he's going to come on tour with me.
Yeah. Especially now. I mean, it was already kind of crumbling when I was doing it, which was 20 years ago now. I can't imagine what it's like now.
It's crazy.
But like there's some stuff there's a lot of stuff that I would have thought would have been distasteful in the entertainment industry that I'm like, well, I'll deal with it in order to do the thing I love.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that overcomes the shyness for me, at least.
Right. And I like the idea of pop. That's short for popular, meaning like nobody has to believe that means suck. As long as you respect your fellow human, it's just that irresistible quality of something that could be pop in almost any sphere. And I like that. It's so sweet. It's like when you go to LA and they're so smiley and simple and they just like their cars and, and they like their meetings and everybody's laughing and they know that what the entertainment industry is. It's theirs, where they know it's a business. They aren't fooled. They all know it's bought. And so there's this like still an urge to find the irresistible. And I don't negate that impulse in myself or in the music. I edit with this idea that it could be, a frosted cake. It doesn't have to be wheat germ.
Cake's great.
You can make it nice.
Hey, when my wife and I are feeling awful, as starts happening weekly at this point, cake is our medicine. So,
yeah, I'm famous with my children for sneaking all kinds of hippie shit into cakes and brownies, and now they're all bakers, actually professional chefs and bakers, and they say it's just because I tortured them with the I was like, well, look how beautiful you are and you're totally alive.
At what point when you're younger, music is taking over? It's going to be the thing. It's the thing that you're consumed by. Even if herpetology is there, even if there's something else there.
I didn't think of it as making a living, thank God, because it wasn't. But I was, I guess obsessed is the only word, but it wasn't real healthy. It was my God. And I thought music was pushing my life around so that I would tell its stories. Like, I would have to live the song and then write the song and then the song could live. So it was like using me up, chewing me up and spitting me out. And it wasn't for a good many years that I began to have a healthier relationship with it and realize if it's the devil, it's only in that low, visceral way and the shadow. It isn't the ego. It's not lying. So I can sit in shadow and I can scream and yell in 50-foot wave and know that this is true health. So I don't know when it ever occurred to me to do it for a living. It's now been 40 years and I still, every day, I'm like, I could be a milkman.
Well, maybe not in 2025.
It's coming back. This dairy truck.
I mean, look, 1876 is coming back. I guess the thing that I'm trying to figure out, especially with a lot of musicians that I talk to, is there's a quantum state change. There was in me, at least, when I went from someone who just appreciated music to someone who wrote music. Do you remember when you crossed that threshold, when you felt compelled to not just like listen to the music that you enjoyed, but to, well, I there's something in me that I want to actually make this. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I was real young. I was forbidden from playing my dad's guitar, which he hid behind the living room couch when I was like 6, 7, 8. And I would come home from school and I would open the case and just stare at it. It was a nice Yamaha. It started to bug him. And so he took the guitar out and said, I'll teach you some chords. And he taught me E, A, and D.
Mm.
And to me, those are primary colors. So I said, that's okay. That's red, blue, and yellow. But I want to know fuchsia and aquamarine and burgundy. And he said, what? I said, well, you only taught me red, blue, and yellow. It's boring. And he's like, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, their whole careers built on red, blue, and yellow. And I said, I want to learn the other colors. And he handed me the guitar and said, it's yours. Play colors.
Oh, really? Wait, it was just like that? It was just like, I want to know G sharp minor. And so he's like, just figure it out, kid.
Right. So I started writing songs then, and I was like 8 or 9. And they were like passable top of my psychology songs because I didn't have anyone to imitate. I had been, I went to Woodstock when I was a toddler, and they also taught me Appalachian folk songs. So that combination, you can kind of hear in early Throwing Muses, and that's sort of where I began. But I didn't know that the songs would take on a life of their own. And then I was in a car crash and had a concussion, and I started hearing them as if they were somewhere else instead of coming from me. And it was like that for 20, 30 years. I heard them outside of me. And so I maintained, well, they are. Right. And just because you can't hear them, it's just because they're my songs, listen to your own. And all the journalists, the British journalists were into that shit. They just thought we were speaking in metaphor. I was like, no, it's literally dissociating and hearing, hallucinating songs.
Did you think that was strange that when you were younger, did you understand the car accident as the catalyst for this change in how music felt internally to you?
Yeah, I was aware in the hospital that other people weren't hearing what I was hearing. And I started to turn those sounds into songs, like the instruments in a band, which I was already in the band, but they started to sort of write themselves and create these essentially sheet music in front of my eyes. And then I would teach the band members the songs, and I was disappointed, just to say the least. It was dismaying. It was really upsetting. And yet you need some sort of self-concept, or you have to like yourself if you're going to have a complaint. And I didn't. So I didn't really complain. I just felt lost. And I thought the song should have found somebody other than this stupid little girl who's not going to make it. And the songs reflected that darkness. But the band, they were so sweet, and they wanted to play them, and they thought it was fun. And honestly, we thought we were a party band. We played parties. Everybody liked it. Even in Boston, it wasn't like dark and junkies everywhere. They would push the pool table over in Johnny D's, and we would set up where it was, and it was like a hootenanny. Everybody was singing along, and I guess everybody knew I was nuts, and so did I. But I was just like, it's the songs. It's not me. Yeah. And they liked that too.
Did you like yourself pre-accident? I'm asking because I'm curious if the accident was a catalyst for a kind of change, or was it just this kind of cerebral thing with the music that changed through?
Yeah, I think it's just where it placed the music. It was outside. But yeah, being a person like me isn't much of a value proposition in this world. Unless you can make it work. I've done my best.
Yeah, but like at what point do you kind of decide you're like, oh wait, I guess I don't like myself? Or I don't. Is it that you don't like how you are and you want to change that, or you're just like, I don't like how this is. I don't like how this feels.
Right. Yeah. I was just very, very upset. I had a really hard life and I blamed myself, I guess. Right. I didn't like it here. And that's what I wanted to hear on the record. I was like, what's that? Like, we have some fun songs. But now I get it, because I actually asked people there were a few times when I was just going to quit. And I was on a book tour one of these times where I was playing shows too. And so people were bringing their books to be signed to my shows. And I would ask them, why do you listen to this? I need to know. And they'd say, because now I know I'm not alone. And honestly, that wasn't enough for me. I was like, I can't ask you to crawl into a pit with me and just sit there. There's got to be some ladder or some light at the end of the tunnel. And this girl in Portland had recently killed herself and left my lyrics as her suicide note. And she told me she was gonna do it, and I was trying to keep her alive, as you do.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is not medicine. If I'm not adding anything to the upset, right? Like, to the self-hatred, there's got to be another answer. And I think the music answered. The music began to breathe much more fully at that juncture. 50-Foot Wave. I started 50-Foot Wave around then, and it just flew. It was the roaring, windswept machine that I had always wanted. And I was describing the drum sound to a guitar tech that I wanted to hear, and it was not something real. There's not even mathematically possible. And he kept going, that's Rob Ayler's. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. He's like, it's got to be super tight, but you got to push the whole kit down a flight of stairs. He's like, that's Rob Ayler's. And Rob, and then Bernie from Throwing Muses, and that band is my heart. That's when I realized, no, there's light here. That I can offer something other than let's crawl into a pit together.
Well, do you know why you internalized it, or why you put it on yourself, as opposed to saying like, well, this person in my life did not treat me right, or whatever. I'm not suggesting something. I'm just saying, like, this is what, like, do you know why you focused it inwards as opposed to finding a reason outwards why you felt the way you did when you were younger?
That's a really good question. And I wish nobody did that.
Yeah.
It would be so great to just be pissed off at somebody that's not you. Right. And then, like, fuck off. Right. You could just, but I just saw it as existence.
Cause that's so heavy to have to, like, bear that kind of burden.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I can see that you know something like that.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of people in my life who I think I see it more in, where I'm like, that's not, I see it in, like, where I'm like, it's not you. You didn't do anything wrong, right? Yet you are now, but you've internalized it, and now it is, and I'm not saying that's like a conscious thing, like you did it on purpose, or anyone that I know did it on purpose.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that
I know.
it's a process that happens.
My children do it. My children are, they see it as a selfless orientation. Like, they're going to carry the pain. They're not going to blame anybody else. They don't want to be that kind of a person. I do. I would like to, and I wish they'd stop taking so much on board.
Yeah. I mean, did you see that kind of behavior in a parent, in someone in your orbit, that you kind of copied that? Or was it just kind of a natural inclination, do you think, when you were younger?
Wow. I think it was all me. I had absolutely no self-awareness or self-consciousness, I want to say. Like, I didn't know how you were supposed to make the leap to outside of yourself to create an impression and manipulate, even just like makeup and that using a fake voice. I thought, this is all lying. Like, why are you all lying? And why am I a fail for telling the truth? I'm still asking that, really, but I side with us on that.
Oh, wow. See, I was so self-conscious, and not in a ego-driven way, but in a way where I was like so aware of being like feeling like weird in my body that I could envision how other people saw me, and I would kind of change the way I, like, if I was just kind of like sitting on the subway. I remember this so much when I lived in Philly. I remember just sitting on the subway, just like lost in thought. And then suddenly I would be aware of what was going on. And I would be like, oh, there's someone in my eye line. And I don't want them to think I'm staring at them. So then I would really like act out that I was lost in thought so that they would know that I was signifying the kind of like, like the thinker, like Rodin's thinker or something like that. Like,
You're right, though. You're right. You're supposed to do that. I'm like a dog. Like I said, I didn't know that other people would experience me in a way that wasn't energetics. I had seen mirrors. I was familiar with them, but I knew that wasn't me. And I certainly wasn't going to wear clothes to make them think something about me. And then that became what people told me my entire job was for the rest of my life. It's like, well, what message are you sending? And, publicist after publicist would say, what color is your hair going to be for this record? I'd say, it really doesn't matter. Like, can we just use the cover art or something? And they're like, well, we don't know what your demographic is, because it's like, look at this preview of one of your shows from the Village Voice. It says, go, if only to see the bizarre cross-section of humanity that will attend a Kristin Hersh show. And I'm thinking, yes. She's like, this is a total fail. No, is it Rolling Stone that we're after? Is it Women's Day? Like, is it single white females? It's like,
what?
Dear God.
Red Book?
Like, I hope not.
Okay, last question then. Do you think this is a result of not having authority figures when you were younger that were kind of putting boundaries on who you could be or who you were supposed to be? Or is there some other reason? Is it, again, I go back to this kind of like this natural biological, like, I'm warmer, so snakes like me.
That's a very good question. Yeah. Feral is really true. Like, and my partner Fred is the same thing. It's that decade of child rearing. We didn't have seatbelts. We didn't have dinner made for us. It's like, I didn't even have forget latchkey. We didn't own keys to the house. We would just get locked out. I made sure that my brother got to school every morning, and then he ate his oatmeal and all this. And the rest of the time is just like figure out life. And junior high, particularly our junior high in the island, Newport is the poorest county in the state. And this junior high is world renowned. It's like Scared Straight. Wow. I meet people who went to Thompson and they're like, what the fuck was up with that place? There's rape threats every day, like fights, knife fights, and like absolutely out of control.
What?
Schools. So without anyone to say, oh no, it's cool. You're fine. Just do blank. There was no blank. There was just like, wait for it to end and then try to find nature. Nature makes sense. I hate to put it that way, but I was a hippie chick. And that's really all that my parents left me with was, well, go to the beach. And I'm still like, when I don't understand people, I just go to the beach.
Oh my God. That feels like a very organic place to end. Kristin, thank you so much for joining me. This has been
you, dear. You're so
absolute
lovely.
Delight talking to you.
That was fun.
Yeah, this was great. This was so great. Thank you for
let's do this again next week.
Oh, Kristin, seriously, thank you. This was...
Oh, it was lovely meeting you, Andrew. That was super fun. It's like, they're not usually fun, just so you know.
Oh, I know. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye.